I've always seen education or educational institutions as spaces that can really transform community and impact generations. And so when it came to discussing trauma and adversity, I think recognizing the power that these institutions can play in impacting people's lives, both at a personal and professional level later on, it just made sense to me. If we're to talk about the bigger picture, we're not just talking about trauma-sensitive schools or trauma-sensitive districts, we're talking about trauma-sensitive communities, right? Mm-hmm. So where all institutions are aware that families need those wraparound services, right? But I think it's also changing the mindset where the focus isn't solely on the academic, but also on the non-academic skills that are necessary to develop healthy, brilliant children. And so that's where we elevate social emotional learning and work with teachers to couple that with their academic standards.
So for the partnership to be successful in a district, all the stakeholders have to be on board. In our district, we have our Board of Education members, our superintendent, our administration staff, our teachers, and our custodians, our lunch staff are all involved in knowing what they can do to help support students.
It goes back to the development of leadership and capacity building, and so we build resilience teams within the schools that range in size from like 8 to 20 individuals, depending on the size of the district, and there's a variety in terms of roles and responsibilities within those that are involved in the resilience team.
Our particular action plan for the district, we look at some specific goals that are tailored to our district. For the first 2 years, we spent a lot of work just becoming a trauma-informed school district. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the trainings were on the research of the ACEs study and becoming a school district that really looks at, rather than what's wrong with this child, to what's happening to this child, and then how can the school system support that child and that family as well.
As the co-chair of the Resilience Committee in my district, there is a team of us that were put together, and through the partnership of Resilience, we met to develop an action plan. In that team, we decided, okay, these are our top 5 priorities. This is what we're going to focus on as a district. And we take those back to our buildings, and then we tailor fit it to the needs of whatever our staff and students may need according to our building. One of the most common needs that I've seen in my district is that students need to be taught target behaviors to understand what is being expected from them. So I can't expect that every student knows how to sit still in a seat, how to recognize that maybe their behavior needs to be regulated, that it's inappropriate at this time. I need to make sure that I am teaching those skills in the classroom so that as time goes on, they get used to it and know that, hey, when the teacher says pause, I need to be quiet.
We know that this work takes time and that it's not something that's done overnight, nor is the same approach that works for one district going to work for another. So you're constantly, there's a fluidity that's necessary to do this work well and to present it in a sincere way.
As a special education teacher, I felt like the training that I received was beneficial to understanding trauma-sensitive practices.
There's a difference between healthy stress and toxic stress, and toxic stress is defined as a stress that you don't have the ability to escape or the relationships to get through and cope with. If you live in a neighborhood where, for example, gun violence is something that's often a reality, and maybe your family is not at a capacity to leave that area, you're really reliant on relationships helping you cope with it and helping you make sense of it. But when toxic stress is so common and prevalent in someone's life, it impacts you chemically within your brain.
When we learned about toxic stress and trauma-informed practices, it was more of a, aha, this sounds like so much common sense. We're already doing this in our classrooms.
We know that this is hard work, and we want our teachers to be ready for any case or any situation that may come in front of them.
It's important to have empathy and sympathy for students because they are students. Sometimes as a high school teacher, it's hard for teachers to remember that these students who are taller than them are actually kids.
There's a lot of tough days in relationship to this work because you're reminded that hurt people, right? And you have to approach it with a lot of empathy and compassion.
This is not an add-on. Basically, we're saying if you embed these social emotional strategies into your classroom, guess what? Things will get easier because now you can reach Johnny in the back who is scrunched down and probably not trying to pay attention to what you're saying because maybe, just maybe, he's not trying to be defiant. Maybe he's hungry. Maybe he has a lot of other things on his mind.
I enjoy the work because it requires self-reflection, but it also is a process where you're encouraging that from others as well. So from a very personal standpoint, being someone that came from similar environments, I want to see these students succeed. I want them to feel like they have all the tools within themselves to make the world a bright and brilliant place, and that they're part of that narrative.
In an ideal world, I see this program evolving where when you step into a building, you feel it. When you walk into a school, you understand that there are people around who care, there are people who understand that empathy is important, that every student matters, that because everyone is feeling the love and everyone is getting the support that they need to be successful for whatever they do when they leave out of high school.